Oklahoma is the land of second, third, and last chances. Who were the people that made it so? We'll trace the golden threads they've woven through Oklahoma history. The Red River Institute, JohnJDwyer.com, and our signature sponsor, Atwoods, present Oklahoma Gold. While John J. Dwyer is completing the OKLAHOMANS Volume 2, he is sharing his microphone with Red River Institute board member and award-winning author, broadcaster, and avocational historian Wade Burleson. I'm Gwen Falconer-Lippert. We'll dig for the golden nuggets of Oklahoma history here now on Oklahoma Gold, the Burleson Chapters. We dignify our history when we know their names. Wade Burleson, America's greatest citizen soldier? What is this story?
Well, I know when you're listening to this on the radio, it's kind of hard to connect times and dates and names, and you get lost. But hang in with me, Gwen, and those who are listening, just pay attention. This is an incredible story about Oklahoma history, and a man by the name of Raymond McLean. Raymond was born in Kentucky in 1890, but when he was a teenager, he moved to Oklahoma City with his parents. This is the early 1900s, before statehood. Gwen, he only had a 6th grade education in Kentucky. When he came to Oklahoma City, he ended up going to business school. And he graduated from business school, even though he only went to the 6th grade, with an emphasis on real estate and abstract. And he started doing some work in real estate. And when we come to the end of this story, those of you who live in Edmond, Oklahoma, just north of Oklahoma City, I want to tell you something that'll give you chills up your spine. But right now, I want to tell you about Raymond McLean, who joined the National Guard when he was 18 years old.
So we said he was America's greatest citizen soldier. What makes a citizen soldier?
Well, it's a good question, Gwen. Don't want to assume that anyone would know. But it means basically that you have a job. You earn an income doing business. You're a citizen of the United States. You're not in the Army. You don't receive income because you're in the Army. And on weekends, you train and you drill. And if there is international conflict, the United States government has the right and the prerogative to call up citizen soldiers, we call it National Guard, to fight overseas. And then the business that you work for is obligated by law to hold your position until you return from battle. That's what a citizen soldier is.
So we send businessmen to war?
Absolutely, all the time. But right now, I want to tell you about Raymond McLean, who joined the National Guard when he was 18 years old. The Oklahoma National Guard had just been created. If you think back to 1910, 1911, 1912, we haven't yet fought World War I. Oklahoma National Guard is being formed along with other states. Mexico is our biggest problem. Pancho Villa, who really is upset over Texas and all that happened south of us. He wants to retake Texas, thinking that it's Mexico, and so on. So the National Guard goes down to the border of Mexico and protects the United States from Mexico. And Raymond McLean goes there as a citizen soldier with the National Guard. But then on April the 6th, 1917, and World War I begins for the United States of America. Even though it's been going on in Europe, the United States enters a little bit late, and the Oklahoma National Guard is sent to fight for World War I. And there goes Raymond McLean. And you know what? He excels, Gwen. He does a great job. Comes back and picks up with business after the end of World War I in 1919, comes back and does his real estate business. And he begins to focus on purchasing property north of Oklahoma City. Now, if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with Oklahoma City, I understand. You can look at it on a map. But those of you who are from Oklahoma City, if you just draw a line on I-35 from the heart of Oklahoma City north, you'll come to Edmond. Okay? Far north Oklahoma City, about 3 miles south of Edmond, we have what's called the Kilpatrick Turnpike today, okay? Eastern Road on the Kilpatrick Turnpike. Raymond McLean bought some property. Now, we're going to come back to that in a little bit because it's very important. The property that he bought, he built himself a home. And all of the other officers of the Oklahoma National Guard who are stationed in Norman. By the way, if you ever go to an OU football game, on the west side of the stands, the donor side,
Yes.
On the north end zone, you have the armory. It was just redecorated, remodeled last year. It's gorgeous. Well, this is where Raymond McLean would go for the weekends to train with the Oklahoma National Guard.
On the OU campus.
On the OU campus.
Okay.
And he got to know some different people who were students in the Oklahoma National Guard. And he begins to train them because he's got experience. The Mexican War, World War I. He then goes to different training. He is eventually promoted to Brigadier General of the Oklahoma National Guard. And he's responsible, Raymond McLean is responsible for training the citizen soldiers of Oklahoma during the 1930s. By the way, I'm going to jump ahead now. Those of you in Tulsa McLean High School is named after Raymond McLean, so hang on with me. World War II opens up, 1939. The house that Raymond McLean built in Edmond, okay, he begins to study Hitler. He reads Mein Kampf. He looks at what Germany is doing in Europe, and he's thinking, you know what? We may be entering the war as the United States of America. So he prepares Oklahoma troops, the 45th Infantry, called the Thunderbirds. Then, because of his experience, the President of the United States calls him over to Europe when we enter the war, and Raymond McLean goes on to lead the United States Army to victory in World War II. And let me tell you what kind of incredible citizen soldier this man is. Hang in there with me. Listen to me. He's not regular military. He's a real estate man. But he is promoted to a 3-star general, a lieutenant general in the regular army because of his heroics. For example, I can't give you all of the awards that he won, but at Normandy, he ends up taking over command of the 9th Corps after Normandy. And he takes the 9th Corps from France to Germany, winning some battles that George C. Marshall, that 5-star General Omar Bradley said, only Raymond McLean won these battles because of his aggressiveness. He is the only man since the Civil War who served as a civilian soldier to lead a regular Army Corps. Highly, highly decorated. He comes back after victory in World War II to Oklahoma. He's appointed to a position in Oklahoma City. To this day, the highest civilian award and Army award for citizen soldier is named the McLean Award. But when we come back in just a moment, what I want you to understand about Oklahoma history is that I believe World War II was won because of the planning that took place in Edmond, Oklahoma.
Stitching the past to the present. This is Oklahoma Gold. Dignifying our history when we know their names. And today's America's greatest citizen soldier's name is Raymond McLean.
That's right. Yep, Raymond McLean, Gwen. Tulsa McLean High School is named after him. The only 3-star general who was a businessman, real estate, dealt in abstract, helped you sell and buy real estate in Oklahoma City. That was his profession. And then Omar Bradley, all the great generals of World War II. George C. Marshall said there's never been a greater citizen soldier than Raymond McLean. Oklahoma City, the heritage that he has here, moving here as a teenager, is just incredible. But what I want to tell you now is, even though he's the most highly decorated civilian soldier since the Civil War, what he did in Edmond, Oklahoma is very personal to me. Remember, I told you about the land that he bought and built a house. His house was called Treetops. If you go north on I-35 and then hit Kilpatrick Turnpike and go a little bit west to Eastern Avenue and then just go north about a quarter of a mile, on the east side of the road, you will find Reveille Road. You'll see it. There's a sign.
I've seen Reveille Road.
Reveille Road, absolutely. Well, Reveille Road is the road that connected, now get this, all of the Oklahoma National Guard officers, the generals, the colonels, they built their homes up there. And it was Raymond McLean who helped them buy the land, plot out the roads, and these beautiful homes, 7, 8, 9 homes built by the Oklahoma National Guard officers are there. Now, here's what's fascinating. In the official biography of Lieutenant General Raymond McLean, written by his daughter, she talks about the home that she grew up in there in North Oklahoma City, south of Edmond. It was called Treetops. And I want to quote from the book that she wrote. This was built in the early 30s, before World War II, but Raymond McLean has already had experience in World War I, and he knows what's coming. He's been reading Mein Kampf. He's been studying Hitler. He knows what's going on in Europe. The war has already started. September 1st, 1939. The United States doesn't get in until Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. So for 2 years, from 1939 to 1941, while he's training Oklahoma National Guardsmen, knowing that they're about to go to war in Europe, Raymond's daughter, Dr. Betty McLean, a historian, writes about what he did in the Treetops house. My father would study military problems long into the night at Treetops, at first by gaslight and then by windmill-generated electric light. He talked with his buddies from the Oklahoma National Guard over historic battles, knowing full well that rumors of genocide and of madman Adolf Hitler's threats in Mein Kampf would have to be reckoned with, and the boys from Oklahoma would have to face Nazism head on. I propose that what General McLean did in his home at Treetops with other officers from the 45th Thunderbirds in Oklahoma, which eventually resulted in some of the greatest World War II victories in Europe, was the seeds of victory for World War II. And if you're ever near Edmond and you are on Eastern Avenue coming to Kilpatrick, take a look at Reveille Road. Go down that road, look at the lake around there, and that is the place that the planning, preparation, and ultimate victory for World War II occurred, in the office of Lieutenant General Raymond McLean in his house called Treetops.
What's happened to Reveille Road and the houses?
Well, General McLean's house burned down in 1975, Thanksgiving weekend. But Gwen, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you what's very personal to me in terms of Oklahoma gold and the nugget from this little history lesson. My grandfather was an All-American tight end for the University of Oklahoma. 1929, he scored the first touchdown in the Cotton Bowl against the University of Texas. That was the first year the Cotton Bowl was played in Dallas. He was also a member of the Oklahoma National Guard. He was friends with General McLean. He ended up fighting at the Battle of the Bulge in the 45th Infantry. When he came back after World War II, the chief surgeon for the 45th, Dr. Boland, sold him his house in Reveille Retreat along Reveille Road, the only original historic home in Reveille Retreat is owned by my grandmother and my grandfather, who have since deceased, but have given it to my uncle, who now lives there. Every other house has been destroyed. To me, Oklahoma gold, Oklahoma history, world history, all ties together in some of the greatest stories that most people from Oklahoma don't even know.
Who would think the success of World War II would hinge on a citizen soldier from Oklahoma?
Exactly, Gwen. And that's why I say to people all the time, don't discount the history of this great state. Nazism, Dachau, the concentration camp, was liberated by the 45th Infantry. World War II was won in the planning that occurred in Edmond, Oklahoma. Lieutenant General Raymond McLean in his house called Treetops.
Now that's Oklahoma gold.